Hi everyone. This reflection will walk through the key ideas from this module's assigned materials, focusing on what challenged me the most, what stood out as meaningful, how the sources connect, and how they shape our thinking about the future of cities. What challenged me most? The idea that challenged me most was from the Limits to Growth video. It argued that exponential growth, just 2 or 3% a year, is not just unsustainable, but dangerous on a finite planet. The metaphor of a gold coin doubling in size until it takes over the Earth illustrated how seemingly manageable growth becomes catastrophic if unchecked. Another idea that challenged me from this video is the aspect of who defines what is necessary if the United States were shift to a post-growth economy. Would the current powers at hand relinquish their wealth and control for the betterment of the nation? Kyle Pluta's article, Shrinking the Economy to Save the World, helps clarify a common misconception about degrowth. While critics often equate it with a recession, Paoletta explains that degrowth is actually a purposeful and structured approach to rethinking the economy, one that aims to be fair, inclusive, and democratically driven, rather than chaotic or harmful like an economic collapse. This completely upended the way I've thought about economic growth, not as a necessity, but as something we may need to reimagine altogether. What concepts or quotes were most meaningful or troubling? Idris Khalloun's article includes a quote that I found particularly troubling. Leaving a forest alone is nothing for GDP, but cutting it down for lumber shows up as a positive contribution. This exposed a core flaw in the way we currently define economic value. GDP rewards destruction, not sustainability. Kate Nellisher's Housing Crisis Explained video stood out as well. She explained that in cities like New York, vacancy rates are below 1% for apartments under $2,400. She points out that this is a policy failure more than a market failure, citing exclusionary zoning and limited housing types as key causes. David Biari's Green Places, Nice Places challenged the idea that aesthetics are a luxury. He argued that attractive, livable spaces aren't just optional, they're essential for sustainable, equitable growth. By emphasizing that nice places support well-being and inclusion, Biari reframes urban design as a vital part of building better, more resilient cities. There is a surprising level of connection between these materials, even though they range from economic theory to infrastructure policy. In the AL307 panel, Ed Glazer showed that road quality is worse in low-income and black neighborhoods. Using data from Uber accelerometers, he emphasized that our infrastructure policy isn't particularly fair. We need to focus more on maintenance and less on shiny new projects. Megan Ryerson added that cities often wait until people die before installing pedestrian infrastructure. She highlighted Seattle's approach. They put in the infrastructure first, then evaluate it. Zach Hisco explained how infrastructure costs in the U.S. are unusually high, not because of labor costs, but because we don't share cost data well between jurisdictions. We don't use standard designs. These practical insights tie closely to Knox and Pinch's analysis in urban social geography, where they describe the shift from Fordist to post-Fordist cities and the resulting spatial polarization and inequality. John Naisbitt's Megatrends provides an even broader framework. He writes, the industrial age is over. We are no longer a national economy or a global information-based economy. This trend of decentralization, data, and services echoes what we see in Kate Nellisher's push for housing reform and in Ryerson's data-driven approach to infrastructure. Now, how could these materials shape thinking about urban sustainability in future cities? The CNET documentary, America's Cities Have Been Changing, argues that the pandemic didn't start urban decline. It accelerated trends toward already in motion. Remote work allowed more people to move away from expensive urban cores. It caused downtowns to lose foot traffic and businesses, and it pushed cities to rethink land use. This video points out that cities experimented with outdoor dining, bike lanes, and using public space more equitably, but also notes that essential workers and lower-income residents had less flexibility and bore the brunt of the pandemic's disruptions. This connects back to Glazer's data on infrastructure inequality, Nellisher's critique of exclusionary housing policy, and Khalloun's critique of GDP as a misleading success metric. All of this aligns with Keynes' 1930 vision and economic possibilities for our grandchildren, where he predicts that one day, once material needs are met, and this is paraphrased, we shall honor those who could teach us how to live wisely and agreeably and well. That moral shift towards the value of equity, dignity, and sustainability feels especially relevant today. Now, what are my takeaways? Exponential growth is not compatible with planetary limits. GDP is flawed. It's a flawed measure of well-being. Infrastructure and housing reflect systemic inequality. The economy has shifted irreversibly towards global decentralized patterns. And COVID accelerated but did not invent urban transformation. Together, these materials push us to reimagine cities not as engines of endless expansion, but as spaces of care, inclusion, and sustainability. Thank you.